Greetings, fellow horror fans. Spoiler look at the Nightmare on Elm Street series now continues on with my favorite movie in the series, Part 3, Dream Warriors. In 1987, a year after the events of the previous film, teenager Kristen Parker dreams Freddy Krueger is chasing her. He attacks her in her bathroom after she thinks she already awoke, making it look like she slit her wrist in the real world. Believing Kristen to be suicidal, her mother admits her to Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital, where she is placed under the care of Dr. Neil Gordon. At the hospital, Kristen finds the orderlies who try to sedate her because she fears falling asleep. The new intern therapist, Nancy Thompson, calms her down and befriends her by reciting part of Freddy's nursery rhyme. Nancy is introduced to the rest of Dr. Gordon's patients: Philip, a habitual sleepwalker; Kincaid, a tough kid from the streets who is prone to violence; Jennifer, a hopeful television actress prone to cigarette burns; Will, who uses a wheelchair due to a prior suicide attempt; Taryn, a recovering drug addict; and Joey, the youngest, who is too traumatized to speak. One night, Freddy attacks Kristen in her dreams, but she unwittingly pulls Nancy into her dream, allowing them to escape. Kristen reveals that she has been able to pull people into her dreams since she was young. Over the next 2 nights, Freddy throws Philip off a roof and kills Jennifer by smashing her head into a television. In their next group session, Nancy reveals to her remaining patients that they are the last of the Elm Street kids, the surviving children, those who banded together and burned Krueger to death many years ago. Well, Nancy and Neil encourage them to try group hypnosis so they can experience a shared dream and discover their dream powers. In the dream, Joey wanders off and is captured by Freddy, leaving him comatose in the real world. Nancy and Neil are relieved of duty. A nun, Sister Mary Helena, tells Neil that Freddy is the son of a young woman on the hospital staff who was actually locked in a room with hundreds of mental patients who raped her continually, and that the only way to stop him is to lay his bones to rest. He and Nancy ask her father, Officer Donald Thompson, where the bones are hidden, but he is uncooperative. Nancy rushes back to the hospital where she learns that Kristen has been sedated. Neil says behind to convince Donald to help them. Nancy and the others engage in group hypnosis to reunite Kristen, but are all separated by Freddy. Taryn and Will are killed by Freddy while Kristen, Nancy, and Kincaid find one another. The trio rescue Joey, but are unable to defeat Freddy because he has become too powerful due to the souls he has absorbed. Sensing his remains have been found, Freddy appropriates his own skeleton and kills Donald before incapacitating Neil. Freddy returns to check the others, but Joey uses his dream power voice to repel him. Donald tells Nancy that he is crossing over, but he is revealed to be Freddy and stabs Nancy in the stomach and tosses her aside. Freddy, believing that Nancy is dead, comes upon Kristen in order to kill her, but a still alive Nancy stabs him with his own glove. Neil manages to recover and purifies Freddy's bones, killing him. After Nancy dies, Kristen manages to wake everyone and return them to the real world. During the patient's funeral, Neil finds Amanda Krueger's tombstone and discovers that she is Sister Mary Helena. That evening, he goes to sleep with the Malaysian doll Nancy gave him and Kristen's papier-mâché house nearby. Suddenly Kristen's house lights up from the inside, suggesting that Freddy is not completely defeated. Bum bum bum. So now let's take a look at the production of this movie, beginning with the development. Following the critical failure of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, Neon Cinema wasn't sure if they would continue with the series. Wes Craven, who wrote and directed the original Nightmare on Elm Street, did not participate in the first sequel. He had not wanted the original to evolve into a franchise, but co-wrote the screenplay for the third installment with the intention that it would end the series. The success of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors prompted a continuation of the series. Craven's very first concept for the film was to have Freddy Krueger invade the real world. Krueger wanted the actors filming a new Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. Neon Cinema rejected the meta-cinematic idea, but years later, Craven's concept was brought to screen in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Craven himself would be unavailable for directing, as he was tied up with filming Deadly Friend around the same time. Before it was decided what script would be used for the film's story, both John Saxon and Robert Englund wrote their own scripts for their Nightmare film. A Saxon script called How the Nightmare on Elm Street All Began, which would have been a prequel story, Freddy would ultimately turn out to have been innocent, or at least set up for the murders by Charles Manson, who along with his followers would have been the main culprit of the murders. Freddy would be forced by the mob of angry parents to make a confession of the crimes, which would enrage them further. After they lynch Freddy, he comes back to avenge his wrongful death by targeting the parents' children. In English treatment called Freddy's Funhouse, the protagonist would have been Tina Gray's older sister, who would have been in college by the time Tina was murdered, and so coming back to Springwood to investigate how she died. In the script, Freddy had claimed the 1428 Elm Street house for his own in the dream world, setting up booby traps like Nancy did against him. According to England, part of it later ended up being used in the pilot episode of Freddy's Nightmares after the script had been lying around unused for a few years. And now on to the writing. Wes Craven has said about the direction he and Bruce Wagner wanted to take the franchise in that, quote, "We decided that it could no longer be one person fighting Freddy, and it had to be a group, because the souls of Freddy's victims have made Freddy stronger." He also called Heather Langenkamp to ask her if he may include her character Nancy in the script, which she agreed to. In interviews with cast and crew in the DVD extras, it is revealed that the original idea for the film centered around the kids separately traveling to a specific location to die by suicide. Later we discovered that the common link between the youths was that they dreamed of Freddy Krueger. Since suicide was a taboo social issue, the storyline was abandoned. Some aspects of the idea remained in the film. In Craven and Wagner's original script, the characters were somewhat different from what was eventually filmed. Nancy was not a dream expert or any kind of mental health professional. Kristen, named Kirsten in this script, only stayed in the institution for a short while. She had a father, and her mother was named Alice. Neil's last name was Guinness, and his character was much younger. Dr. Sims' last name was Madalena. Taryn was African American. Joey was the one who built the model of a house and had trouble getting around, although he didn't use a wheelchair. And Philip was a 13-year-old. Will's name was originally Loretto. He had long hair, did not use a wheelchair, and was the one who made the clay puppets. This script also described the ranch house where Krueger was born, and that is the house that shows up in the kids' dreams rather than the Elm Street house. Wes Craven specifies the house in its original script to be, quote, an architectural portal to Freddy's dreamscape. It is virtually a limitless world of the human psyche in all of its dimensions. So you can enter this world through one house, or dreams, or madness, or hallucinations, or special psychic states that various people have. Contrary to the film, Donald Thompson knew from the start that Krueger was real and still alive. Krueger was missing, and Nancy wanted to find him. When she finds him, Nancy learns that Krueger is obsessed with finding the house where he was born so he could burn it down. In the original script, there is a romance between Nancy and Neil, and they have sex. There are scenes and lines that are reminiscent of the first film. There was no mention that Krueger's mother had been a nun or that Freddy was born of rape. Both Joey and Kincaid are killed. The deaths in the script were more grotesque. Krueger was not as talkative, and he was more vulgar. Freddy is killed by Nancy using some glove, not by holy water, and she sees through a shape-shifting trick even though she still dies. On Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy, director Chuck Russell states that Craven's original script is darker and more profane. Mauricio Telle thought the script seemed like a, quote, $20 million script. Discussing the more humorous elements of the film, Russell stated, quote, "I looked at what series creator Wes Craven did and said, this is absolutely great and terrifying. But I felt by the time I came along on 3, the way to go was to make the whole idea of dreams and nightmares into a carnival and go further into dreams to make Freddy Krueger more outrageous and add more of an element of dark humor. That worked, and the series went in that direction from then on." One of the most memorable scenes of the film, and a fan favorite, is the scene that takes place in the junkyard during the film's climax. The junkyard sequence and the set itself were the product of art director Mick Strawn. Mick also handled some special effects sequences on the film. Mick also handled some special effects sequences on the film and became production designer on the sequel. The sequence was so popular that it appeared again in Nightmare on Elm Street 4: The Dream Master. The junkyard sequence was filmed in Pacoima, California for both films. And now on to the casting. Lisa Wilcox and Leslie Deanne, who will later be cast as Alice Johnson and Tracy respectively in the following installments, have both reported to have auditions for roles in Dream Warriors previously. Patricia Arquette was close to being recast early into the shooting, but Chuck Russell intervened and had her stay. According to producer Sarah Risher, the role that the producers spent the most time interviewing and auditioning was for Marcy, played by Stacey Alden, the sexy nurse who seemingly seduces Joey in his dream but turns out to be Freddy. Nurse Marcy, while seducing Joey, was originally supposed to turn to a she-Freddy, with Alden wearing Freddy's mask. Roy H. Wagner had second thoughts about this after seeing how she-Freddy looked in practice, stating that, quote, Freddy would press, it was too off-kilter. The concept of she-Freddy was substituted with the nurse with having to shoot prehensile tongues at Joey to trap him and then being switched with England Freddy. In the shooting script, Sally Kellerman was supposed to be on Dick Cabot's talk show, but Cabot allegedly handpicked Saja Gabor personally after being given the opportunity to choose who he thought should appear on his show and be slaughtered by Freddy. According to Robert England, all of her reaction dialogues were completely improvised. Quote, Miss Gabor, who was probably just grateful to be asked to appear in a movie again, apparently didn't read the script or bother doing any research on nightmare flicks. I guess her agent told her, I have a job for you. And all she said was, great, what time did you say shut up, darling? Now realizing that she was about to throw down with a burned to crisp serial killer. During the fake talk show where she's interviewed by Dick Cabot, all reactions seen on film were 100% genuine. She didn't know who the fuck Freddy was, so I jumped out. She had him all freak out. And now on to the filming. The storyboards used for the shooting were supplied by Pete Von Schawley. Russell originally hired a cinematographer whom land producer Richard Talalay perceived to be Eastern European. Talalay had the cinematographer fired after she insulted Penelope Sudrow and replaced him with Roy H. Wagner. The Rice Hall building on the University of California, Los Angeles campus was used for the exteriors of the Weston Hill Psychiatric Hospital, while St. Brenda Catholic Church was used for the church scenes. The scene of Freddy's boiler room were filmed at a converted warehouse across the street from Los Angeles County Jail. Mark Shostrom, who was also doing work on the set of Evil Dead 2, possibly smuggled the Freddy glove used in Dream Warriors and used it as a background prop for one day, explaining the glove appeared in the film released the same year. And now on to the special effects. The special effects were created by a team led by Peter Chesney and included Kevin Yeager and Mark Shostrom. For the iconic death scene for Jennifer, where her body is hoisted into the air, Shostrom created a dummy of Penelope Sudrow with fully flexible limbs out of fiberglass and urethane, and then put a matching wig on the dummy. The team built 5 big televisions, each with different functions, one being equipped with a rubber membrane which the dummy of Freddy's head pushed up through. Afterwards, they substituted the dummy with Robert Englund. Another was equipped with the metal arms which included Freddy's finger blades and vacuum tubes from real televisions. The line, "Welcome to prime time, bitch," spoken by Freddy in the scene was not included in the script, but was ad-libbed by Robert Englund. For Taryn's death scene, the team had originally tried for an effect where her head would explode after being injected with drugs, but could not make this effect work in practice. Instead, they put appliances on Jennifer Rubin's body to show the withering effects of the injection. The skeletal figure of the girl that Kristen is holding in the intro sequence was originally a surreal mechanical corpse dummy created by Shostrom, but turned out to be too good for its purpose. Russell was so unnerved by its appearance that he dared not put it in the film, but had it replaced by a simpler, decayed skeleton. Shostrom went on to the Simon Wiesenthal Museum for inspiration, looking at photographs of burned children from Auschwitz and needed 10 weeks to complete the original dummy. Its replacement was created within hours at Russell's insistence. And now on to post-production. Both Hilary Langenkamp and co-star Craig Rawson referred to a scene they filmed in which they kissed but was not included in the film, and Rawson stating that, quote, "No, we did have sex, but there was this one real hot kiss that just about melted the camera lens. Too bad they cut it." Yeah. And now finally on to the music. The theme song, Dream Warriors, was written and performed by the American heavy metal band Dokken. The single was a success, and a decision was made to include heavy metal songs in the soundtrack of the sequels. The band's manager, Cliff Bernstein, was acquainted with Wes Craven and was able to get a copy of the film script as a reference for the lyrics. Robert Englund's Freddy then helped providing unique footage with the band for the music video. Co-stars Patricia Arquette as Kristen Park were also used, with some notable changes as their model house being built with Dokken fanzines instead of paper mache. In the opening sequence of the original VHS release of the film, a hard rock instrumental version of the Joe Lamont song Quiet Cool plays. When the film was released on DVD, Quiet Cool was replaced by Into the Fire by Dokken, which was the song in the original theatrical release. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors was scored by David Lynch's frequent collaborator and friend, Angelo Badalamenti, and released around 3 weeks prior to the film's theatrical release. The film score was released alongside all the other soundtracks in the franchise in 2017 on the label Death Waltz Recording Company as a box set called A Nightmare on Elm Street: Box of Souls. Ooh. So like I said, this is definitely my favorite movie in the franchise, and it is just really, really good. And again, the death scenes in this one are so iconic, especially Jennifer's death with Freddy saying, "Welcome to prime time, bitch." So yeah. So overall, I give A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors 5 Freddy Claw Gloves out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in tomorrow as we take a look at the continuation of what most people call the Dream Trilogy. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. So, until then, remember everyone, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.